Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Nebraska, watching the stars shift outside the main screen. His ship was 3 months out from Earth, the first human vessel to travel this far into unknown space. The fusion engines had finally given humanity the power to reach other star systems, and Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The Nebraska was not a pretty ship. Where other races might build elegant vessels, humans built fortresses. The hull was thick steel and ceramic armor. Magnetic railguns lined every surface like the spines of a metal hedgehog. Point defense systems tracked constantly, ready to shoot down anything that came too close. This was how humans built things after the resource wars of the 22nd century had taught them that survival meant having bigger guns than the other guy. "Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Danny Rogers from the sensor station. His voice carried excitement and fear in equal measure. Jake walked over to look at the display. 3 objects were moving toward them, at impossible speeds, their energy signatures unlike anything in human databases. They moved with purpose, adjusting course to intercept the Nebraska. "All stop," Jake ordered. "Bring us to general quarters. I want all weapon systems online but not targeted. Let's see what we're dealing with." Commander Lisa Barnes, the ship's tactical officer, worked quickly at her station. She was a veteran of the Mars colonies where quick reflexes meant the difference between life and death during pirate raids. "Weapons ready, Captain. Whatever those things are, they're not showing up on any configuration we know." The 3 ships came closer, and Jake got his first look at alien technology. The vessels were beautiful in a way that human ships were not. They looked like they were made of crystal and light, with smooth curves that seemed to bend space around them. No visible weapons, no armor plating, just elegant lines that spoke of a completely different approach to engineering. "They're trying to communicate," reported Chief Communications Officer Pete Wilson. "I'm getting some kind of signal, but it's not radio or laser, it's something else entirely." Jake felt his heart racing. First contact with an alien species. Every human child had dreamed of this moment. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it, sir. The computer is trying to find patterns." Before Pete could make progress, something impossible happened. The air in the middle of the bridge began to glow with soft blue light. The glow grew brighter and took shape, forming into 3 figures that definitely were not human. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. They wore robes that seemed to be made of the same crystal material as their ships. They raised their hands in what looked like a peaceful gesture. Lisa Barnes did not see a peaceful gesture. She saw unauthorized beings materializing on her bridge without permission. Every instinct honed by years of combat screamed danger. Her hand moved to the emergency alert button and slammed it down. "Hostile boarding action. All hands, repel boarders." The ship's automated defense systems had been waiting for exactly this kind of threat. In less than half a second, every weapon system on the Nebraska turned toward the alien ships. The main railgun, a massive magnetic accelerator that ran the length of the ship, charged to full power. Smaller point defense guns swiveled and locked on target. "Belay that order," Jake shouted. But it was too late. The Nebraska fired everything at once. Tungsten rods accelerated to 3% of light speed screamed across the void. Point defense lasers painted the alien ships with targeting data. Missile tubes opened and released a cloud of kinetic kill vehicles. The alien ships moved like nothing Jake had ever seen. They seemed to step sideways through space itself, appearing several thousand kilometers away in the blink of an eye. The railgun rounds passed harmlessly through empty space where the ships had been moments before, but the aliens had seen enough. The 3 figures on the bridge flickered and vanished, returning to their ships. Jake watched as the elegant vessels moved away at impossible speeds, their hulls undamaged but their occupants clearly shaken by what they had witnessed. "Cease fire! All weapons, cease fire!" Jake bellowed, but the damage was done. Lisa looked up from her station, her face pale. "Captain, I'm sorry, I thought they were attacking us." Jake sat heavily in his command chair. Humanity's first contact with alien life, and they had started shooting within seconds. He looked at the tactical display where the alien ships were retreating to a safe distance. "Sir," Pete called out, "I'm getting more signals from them. The computer has worked out some basic translation." "What are they saying?" Pete's face was grim. Near as I can tell, sir, they're asking why we tried to kill their diplomats. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Jake realized that the aliens had been trying to introduce themselves in their normal way, probably teleporting over to shake hands and exchange greetings. To them, it must have seemed like a routine diplomatic contact. To humans, it looked like an invasion. Sir, we're getting more contacts on sensors, Danny reported. Lots more. I count at least 20 ships moving our way. Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. Signal our position back to Earth. Full report on everything that just happened. Then prepare a message for our alien friends. What should it say, Captain? Pete asked. Tell them we're sorry. Tell them we didn't understand their greeting customs. And tell them we'd like to try this again. Maybe with a little more warning next time. As Jake watched the alien fleet approach, he couldn't help but think about the Nebraska's design. Every system on the ship was built for war, every decision made with combat in mind. Humans had spent centuries learning to shoot first and ask questions later. He had a feeling that was about to become a very big problem. 3 weeks after the Nebraska incident, the news had spread across half the galaxy. In the crystal halls of the Althari Confederation, Elder Miravel stood before the Grand Council, her normally calm face showing worry. The creatures called. Humans responded to our greeting with violence, she reported to the assembled leaders. They fired projectile weapons at our ships within seconds of contact. Council member Jethrak raised his hand. Perhaps they were frightened. Many young species react poorly to first contact. These were not fear responses, Miravel replied. Their weapons were already prepared. Their ship was built for war, not exploration. Every surface carried weapon systems. Admiral Zeph High, of the crystalline hegemony, laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Primitive creatures with primitive weapons. They throw rocks through space and think themselves warriors. Our shields can stop any kinetic attack. Can they? Asked Dr. Lithara, the Confederation's chief scientist. She had been studying the sensor data from the encounter. These humans accelerated metal projectiles to 3% of light speed. Do you understand what that means? The Admiral waved dismissively. Numbers mean nothing. Energy is what matters. These humans have no energy manipulation, no dimensional technology. They are barely above Stone Age level. Far across the galaxy, the news reached the Federation capital on Centaurus Prime. President Valmore called an emergency session of the Council of Species. Representatives from 47 different worlds gathered in the Great Dome to discuss the human problem. The question before us is simple, President Valmore announced. Do we quarantine this violent species, or do we attempt to educate them in civilized behavior? Ambassador Creton from the Mystic Enclave spoke first. Their reaction suggests deep-rooted aggression. Perhaps they cannot be taught peaceful ways. Or perhaps, countered Dr. Yiloth from the Science Directorate, they simply don't understand our customs. Remember, they are completely isolated. They have never encountered other intelligent life. Meanwhile on Earth, General Nick Hayes sat in the Pentagon's deepest bunker, watching the recording from the Nebraska for the 100th time. The alien ships moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. Their technology seemed like magic. Play it again? Slower this time, he told the technician. Dr. Amy Foster, Earth's leading physicist, leaned forward in her chair. She had been studying the alien ship since the footage arrived. There, pause it there, she said, pointing at the screen. The image froze, showing one of the alien vessels just after it had teleported away from the railgun fire. Look at the hull construction, Amy said. Do you see any armor plating? Any defensive systems? General Hayes squinted at the screen. The alien ship looked smooth and perfect, like a work of art. It's so thin. How does it survive in space? That's exactly my point, Amy replied. Their entire defense system is based on not getting hit. Energy shields to deflect attacks, teleportation to avoid them entirely. They've never had to build thick armor because they've never faced anything they couldn't dodge or deflect. So, what does that mean for us? Amy smiled grimly. It means they've never fought anyone who throws rocks at 3% of light speed. You can't teleport away from something that crosses a solar system in 2 hours. Physics doesn't care about your technology level. Back on Centuris Prime, the Federation Council was reaching a decision. We will send a proper diplomatic mission, President Valmore announced. Captain Veltar will take the Harmony of Spheres to make formal contact with these humans. We will show them how civilized species behave. Captain Veltar was the Federation's most experienced diplomat. She had made first contact with dozens of species, always with success. Her ship, the Harmony of Spheres, was a masterpiece of Federation technology. It could exist in multiple dimensions at once, making it practically impossible to target or damage. 3 months later, Captain Jake Morrison found himself commanding not just the Nebraska, but a small fleet of human ships at the edge of the solar system. Earth's leaders had decided that if aliens were coming to visit, they should be greeted with proper military presence. The human fleet was impressive in its own way. 5 ships, each one a floating weapons platform. The new USS Colorado carried the latest railgun technology, capable of accelerating projectiles to 15% of light speed. The USS Montana carried experimental kinetic missiles that could adjust their course in flight. When the Harmony of Spheres appeared, it took Jake's breath away. The ship looked like it was made of liquid starlight, constantly shifting and changing shape. It was beautiful in a way that human engineering could never match. "Captain Morrison," came a voice over the communication system. "I am Captain Veltar of the Federation vessel Harmony of Spheres. We come in peace to welcome humanity to the galactic community." "Welcome, Captain Veltar," Jake replied. "We're honored by your visit. We've prepared some gifts to share with you, examples of human engineering and culture." The gift exchange was a tradition among Federation species. Usually it involved sharing art, music, or scientific discoveries. Jake had decided to share what humans did best. "These are the specifications for our kinetic weapon systems," Jake explained as data files transferred between the ships. "Our railguns, missile systems, and point defense networks. We thought you might find our engineering approach interesting." There was a long silence from the Federation ship. Finally, Captain Veltar spoke again, her voice carefully controlled. "Captain Morrison, these are weapons of war. Why would you share such things as gifts?" Jake was confused. "Because they represent our best engineering. We've spent centuries perfecting these systems, the mathematics alone required to hit a target, at interplanetary distances while accounting for relativistic effects." "You are proud of your ability to kill," Veltar interrupted. "We're proud of our ability to solve problems," Jake corrected. "These weapons represent solutions to complex engineering challenges. How do you accelerate matter to relativistic speeds? How do you maintain accuracy across vast distances? How do you deliver precise amounts of kinetic energy to a target?" As Captain Veltar studied the human technical specifications, she began to understand something that terrified her. To humans, these weren't just weapons. They were art, science, and engineering all combined into one purpose: throwing objects very, very fast. The Federation had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were primitive because they used kinetic weapons. But the truth was far more dangerous. Humans had spent centuries perfecting the most basic form of warfare in the universe, and they had become very, very good at it. Captain Veltar was still trying to understand human culture when her ship's emergency systems screamed to life. Red lights flashed across the bridge of the Harmony of Spheres as urgent messages poured in from across the galaxy. "Captain," her communications officer called out, voice shaking with fear. "Priority alert from Federation Command. The Vorthan Empire has declared war. They're attacking our border worlds." Jake Morrison watched from the Nebraska's bridge as the Federation ship suddenly blazed with activity. Within minutes, Captain Veltar's voice came over the communication channel, but all diplomatic politeness was gone. "Captain Morrison, I must leave immediately. My people are under attack." "By who?" Jake asked. "The Vorthans. They're a military empire from the galaxy's edge. We've been watching them for decades, but we thought their technology was too primitive to threaten us." As the Harmony of Spheres prepared to leave, Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Captain Veltar, request permission to accompany your ship. Maybe we can help." Veltar almost laughed. "Help? Captain, This is a war between advanced civilizations. Your ships. She paused, remembering the technical specifications Jake had shared. Those numbers had been troubling her for days. Your ships might actually be useful, she admitted. The journey to the Centauri cluster took 3 days at maximum Federation speed. Jake's human fleet struggled to keep up, their fusion drives working at full power just to match the alien vessel's cruise speed. But they made it in time to witness something that would become legend. The Federation's 7th Fleet was dying. Admiral HFY's flagship, the crystal dreadnought Eternal Light, hung dead in space. Around it, the wreckage of dozens of Federation ships drifted like broken toys. The beautiful, elegant vessels that had ruled the galaxy for centuries were being torn apart by enemies they had dismissed as primitive. The Vorthon ships were ugly compared to Federation vessels. They looked like chunks of black metal covered in spikes and armor plating. But they were winning, and winning badly. What happened here? Jake asked as his fleet took position near the Harmony of Spheres. Captain Veltar's voice carried disbelief and horror. The Vorthons have been preparing for this war for 300 years. Every system on their ships is designed to counter our technology. They have energy absorption panels that drink our laser fire, dimensional anchors that prevent our ships from teleporting, jamming fields that disrupt our shield systems. Jake watched the battle through his ship's sensors. Federation ships fired beautiful beams of pure energy at the Vorthon fleet. The beams struck the enemy vessels and simply disappeared, absorbed by black panels that covered their hulls. When Federation ships tried to teleport away from danger, they found themselves trapped in normal space, unable to escape. It's like they studied everything we could do and built counters for all of it. Veltar continued. Our weapons are useless. Our defenses mean nothing. We're being slaughtered. That's when Admiral HFY's voice came over the emergency channel. The proud crystal being who had laughed at human weapons now sounded desperate and broken. Any Federation ships in range, please respond. We need immediate assistance. Our fleet is destroyed. Repeat, the 7th Fleet is destroyed. Jake keyed his microphone. Admiral, this is Captain Morrison of the human fleet. We're here to help. Humans? HFY's voice carried surprise. Your primitive weapons will be useless against Vorthon technology. They absorb all energy attacks. Good thing we don't use energy weapons, Jake replied. All ships, this is Morrison. We're going in. Target the largest Vorthon vessels first. Remember, physics doesn't care about their technology level. The USS Colorado led the attack. Captain Sarah Mills had been waiting her entire career for a battle like this. Her ship's main railgun charged to full power, drawing energy from the fusion reactor until the weapon glowed white-hot. Target acquired, her weapons officer reported. Vorthon flagship range 200,000 kilometers. Fire, Sarah ordered. The railgun launched a tungsten rod at 20% of light speed. The projectile crossed the distance between ships in seconds, moving too fast for the Vorthon sensors to track properly. It struck the flagship's hull with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The Vorthon energy absorption systems tried desperately to process the incoming kinetic energy. For a fraction of a second, the black panels glowed as they attempted to convert the impact into manageable power. Then they overloaded catastrophically. The tungsten rod punched through 14 decks before striking the ship's reactor core. The Vorthon flagship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 star systems away. Impossible, breathed Admiral HFY over the communication channel. How did you penetrate their defenses? We didn't penetrate them, Jake explained as his fleet engaged the confused Vorthon forces. We overloaded them. Their systems are designed to absorb energy weapons, not handle chunks of metal moving at relativistic speeds. The battle turned into a slaughter, but this time the Vorthons were on the receiving end. The USS Montana launched a spread of kinetic missiles that adjusted their course in flight, each one striking a different enemy ship with precision that seemed impossible. The USS Arizona's point defense systems shot down incoming Vorthon fighters, with tungsten pellets moving at incredible speeds. Commander Lisa Barnes, now captain of the Arizona, coordinated the human attack with cold efficiency. Her ship's combat computer tracked dozens of targets simultaneously. calculating intercept courses and impact velocities with mathematical precision that impressed even Federation observers. "Vorthan fleet is breaking off," reported her tactical officer. "They're trying to retreat." "Let them go," Jake ordered over the fleet channel. "We've made our point." As the surviving Vorthan ships limped away into hyperspace, the battlefield fell quiet. Federation rescue ships moved among the wreckage, searching for survivors. The once mighty 7th Fleet had been reduced to debris, but the 5 human ships hung in space without a scratch. Admiral Zephai's voice came over the communication system, humbled and amazed. "Captain Morrison, I owe you an apology and an explanation. How did you know their defenses would fail?" "Because we've been fighting wars for thousands of years," Jake replied. "Every defense can be overcome if you hit it hard enough with the right kind of force. The Vorthans built their ships to counter energy weapons and teleportation. They never considered someone who would just throw rocks at them really, really fast." Dr. Amy Foster, monitoring the battle from Earth, smiled as she reviewed the sensor data. The human approach to warfare had just saved the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Sometimes the simplest solutions really were the best ones. But even as the humans celebrated their victory, deep space sensors were detecting something new. Far beyond the galactic rim, massive energy signatures were moving towards civilized space. Whatever the Vorthans had been running from was still coming, and it was much, much bigger than anything they had faced before. 6 months after the Battle of Centauri, the galaxy had changed completely. In the great halls of the Federation capital, President Valmore stood before a crowd that would have been impossible to imagine before the war. Human engineers worked, alongside alien scientists, sharing knowledge that their species had developed over centuries of different approaches to the same problems. General Nick Hayes walked through the research facilities on Centuris Prime, amazed at what he saw. Dr. Amy Foster stood next to a crystalline scientist, both of them studying holographic displays that showed the internal structure of a new type of weapon that combined human kinetic technology with alien energy manipulation. "The projectile starts as pure energy," Amy explained to a group of mixed human and alien engineers. "We compress it using Federation technology, then accelerate it through a magnetic rail system. When it hits the target, it converts back to energy at the point of impact." The alien scientists were fascinated. Elder Miravel of the Althari Confederation shook her head in wonder. "Your species thinks so differently from us. We spent centuries making warfare clean and elegant. You spent centuries making it effective." "Why can't it be both?" asked Captain Jake Morrison, who now held the rank of Admiral in the new Galactic Defense Initiative. "Your energy weapons are beautiful and precise. Our kinetic systems are powerful and reliable. Together, they're unstoppable." The new hybrid ships being built in Earth's orbital shipyards proved his point. The USS Newton, humanity's first joint technology vessel, carried both massive railguns and sophisticated energy weapons. Its hull was thick human armor, backed by Federation energy shields. It could teleport short distances but also accelerate to incredible speeds using fusion drives. But the celebration was interrupted when Dr. Yil Oth from the Science Directorate burst into the meeting with urgent news. "The deep space sensors have confirmed it," she announced breathlessly. "Something massive is approaching from beyond the galactic rim. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've ever seen." Jake studied the sensor data on the main display. Whatever was coming made the Vorthon fleet look like children's toys. The objects were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. There were hundreds of them, moving in perfect formation toward the galaxy's populated systems. "How long until they arrive?" asked President Valmore. 8 months, maybe 9, Yiloth replied. "They're moving faster than anything should be able to move. The physics involved shouldn't be possible." Captain Sarah Mills, now commanding the USS Colorado, leaned forward to study the data. "What do we know about them?" "Almost nothing," admitted Dr. Yiloth. "The Vorthans left behind some records before they fled. They called them the Devourers. According to Vorthan history, the Devourers destroyed their home galaxy 3,000 years ago. The Vorthans have been running ever since." Amy Foster had been quiet during the briefing, but now she spoke up. "Show me the energy patterns again." The display changed to show the strange signatures coming from the approaching fleet. Amy studied them for several minutes, her face growing more worried with each passing second. "These aren't ships," she said finally. "At least not ships as we understand them. They're something else entirely. The energy patterns suggest they exist partially outside normal space-time." "Can our weapons hurt them?" Jake asked. "I don't know," Amy admitted, "but I have some ideas. We'll need to build something bigger than anything we've ever attempted before." The next 8 months saw the greatest construction project in galactic history. Human industrial capacity, enhanced by Federation technology, built a defensive line across 3 star systems. The new weapons platforms combined the best of both approaches to warfare. The Mjolnir stations were Jake's idea. Each platform carried a railgun the size of a battleship, capable of accelerating projectiles to 30% of light speed. But the projectiles themselves were made of exotic matter provided by Federation scientists, designed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "If these devourers exist partially outside normal space," Jake explained to the assembled fleet commanders, "then we need weapons that can hit them no matter what dimension they're hiding in." When the devourers finally arrived, they were even more terrifying than anyone had imagined. The creatures were enormous living ships, if they could be called ships at all. They moved through space like swimming through water, their hulls shifting and changing as they approached. The first Federation energy weapons struck the lead devourer and passed right through it as if it wasn't there. The creature existed in normal space only when it chose to, making traditional weapons useless. "All Mjolnir stations prepare to fire," Jake ordered from his command ship, the new USS Einstein. "Target the largest creature, full power." The first hybrid railgun fired, sending an exotic matter projectile racing across space at incredible speed. The projectile existed in multiple dimensions at once, making it impossible for the devourer to avoid by shifting between realities. The impact was spectacular. The exotic matter round struck the creature and exploded across several dimensions simultaneously. The devourer writhed and screamed, a sound that somehow carried through the vacuum of space directly into the minds of everyone watching. "It worked," shouted Captain Mills from the Colorado. "The creature is hurt." But there were hundreds more devourers, and they were learning quickly. The creatures began working together, some staying in normal space to attack while others shifted dimensions to avoid the hybrid weapons. The battle raged for 3 days. Human kinetic weapons tore through creatures that had destroyed entire galaxies. Federation energy systems provided the precision targeting needed to hit enemies that moved through multiple dimensions. Working together, the combined fleet slowly pushed back the invasion. Commander Lisa Barnes, now Admiral Barnes commanding the defense of the second line, watched as her ships proved that human stubbornness combined with alien elegance could overcome any threat. "The last group is retreating," she reported to Jake. "They're heading back toward the galactic rim." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the retreating devourers. The creatures had learned that this galaxy was defended by beings who combined brute force with sophisticated technology, creating weapons that could hurt them no matter what dimension they hid in. "Let them go," he ordered. "But keep the sensors watching. If they come back, we'll be ready." Dr. Amy Foster smiled as she reviewed the battle reports. Humanity had brought their greatest gift to the galaxy, the understanding that sometimes the best solution was the simplest one, applied with enough force and intelligence to overcome any obstacle. In the shipyards above Earth, new vessels were already under construction. The nameplate on the latest dreadnought read, USS Newton, and its motto captured humanity's contribution to galactic civilization. "For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. We are the reaction." The galaxy was safe, protected, by the combined strength of species who had learned that different approaches to the same problem could create solutions more powerful than any single method alone.